Ma'am, you've just been named CEO. Elena blinked, certain she'd misheard. The smell of coffee and garlic still lingered from her shift. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the letter, the logo at the top, Reed Innovations. Her eyes raced over the words until they stopped on a name. Malcolm Reed, the man in the wheelchair, the one who'd said, "You deserve better," before vanishing into the night. How could a stranger she'd served once change her entire life? This is the story of a waitress, a rejected CEO, and a single night that rewrote destiny. Welcome, story lovers. From where are you watching? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. It was a quiet Friday evening in downtown Atlanta, and the city glowed gold beneath the setting sun. Inside a sleek penthouse suite, Malcolm Reed adjusted the cuffs of his tailored navy blazer, making sure the silver watch on his wrist gleamed just right. To anyone who knew him, Malcolm was the definition of success. The founder and CEO of Reed Innovations, a rising tech firm known for developing accessibility software for people with disabilities. His name carried weight in boardrooms, yet tonight he wasn't a CEO. He was just a man hoping for a connection. The soft hum of his motorized wheelchair filled the room as he rolled toward the mirror. Years of resilience reflected back, intense eyes, calm smile, and a hint of uncertainty he couldn't quite hide. It had been years since his accident. It has been years since someone looked at him without pity or judgment. Tonight's blind date, arranged by a mutual friend, felt like a small step toward reclaiming something he'd quietly buried. The hope of being seen for who he was, not what people assumed. The restaurant he chose was warm and elegant, dim lighting, soft jazz, and a faint scent of roasted garlic in the air. As he arrived, conversations paused briefly, then resumed with polite smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. He'd grown used to that, the lingering looks, the quiet assumptions. Still, he stayed gracious, steady, composed. The hostess guided him to a corner table near the window. He checked his phone. 6:55 p.m., 5 minutes early. He always was. His date's name was Rebecca. He'd seen only her smile in a picture, kind and confident. He wondered if she'd see past the chair, past the skin tone that too often decided how people treated him. But as the minutes ticked by, an unspoken tension began to form, subtle, invisible, yet heavy. Malcolm didn't know it yet, but this evening, this single dinner, would change not just his night, but the course of someone else's entire life. Rebecca arrived 15 minutes late, heels clicking against the marble floor, her perfume trailing behind her like confidence made visible. The moment her eyes landed on Malcolm, her smile faltered. It wasn't subtle. That flicker of surprise, the sharp inhale, the sudden shift from open warmth to guarded politeness, it all happened in seconds, but he noticed every frame of it. "Malcolm?" she asked, though the hesitation in her voice already answered the question. He nodded, smiled gently, and extended a hand. She didn't take it. Instead, she reached for her purse strap as if steadying herself. "I'm sorry," she muttered, glancing toward the door. "I think there's been a mistake. A mistake." The word stung, quiet but sharp. Malcolm said nothing, watching as she turned away. The hostess tried to call after her, but she was already gone, her heels echoing through the restaurant like punctuation marks to a sentence he hadn't finished reading. The other diners pretended not to look, but curiosity rippled through the room. Whispers, side glances, that familiar cocktail of pity and judgment he'd learned to live with. His throat tightened, not with anger, but something colder. Disappointment, not in her, but in the predictability of it all. A waitress approached, young and soft-spoken, with kindness in her eyes. Her name tag read Elena. "Would you like me to cancel your order, sir?" she asked carefully, trying to mask her empathy. Malcolm looked at her, really looked. There was no pity in her expression, only sincerity. He shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "I think I'll stay." As she brought him water, he noticed her worn shoes, the faint ink stains on her fingers. Signs of someone trying, surviving, moving through life with grace despite the weight of it. She didn't see a CEO in a wheelchair. She just saw a man left waiting. They exchanged small words between her busy tables, light chatter about the music, the weather, her dream of opening a bakery someday. She laughed easily, her warmth filling the silence Rebecca had left behind. And though she didn't know it, each smile she offered chipped away at the invisible armor Malcolm had worn for years. When the check arrived, he paused. The restaurant buzzed around them. Laughter, glasses clinking, life going on as if his humiliation were just background noise. He signed the bill, then took a moment to write something on the tip line. Elena picked up the receipt, her eyes widening. The tip was generous, almost absurd for a single meal. He looked up at her one last time and said softly, "You deserve better." Then he turned his wheelchair toward the exit and left. No grand gesture, no goodbye. Just the quiet hum of his chair fading into the night air. Elena stood frozen, the words echoing in her mind. "You deserve better." She didn't know why, but the sentence felt heavier than kindness, like a promise she didn't yet understand. And as she slipped the folded receipt into her apron pocket, something told her that this night, this small act of compassion, wasn't over yet. Days turned into weeks, and Elena's life moved on. Or at least it tried to. The restaurant still buzzed with the same noise, the same faces, the same exhaustion that clung to her every night. But every time she reached into her apron for change, her fingers brushed the old receipt, the one with his words scrawled across it. "You deserve better." Then one morning, an envelope arrived at the restaurant, thick, embossed, and strangely formal. Her manager handed it to her with a shrug. "Looks important," he said. The envelope was sealed in deep navy wax, stamped with the logo of Reed Innovations. Her heart raced as she unfolded the letter. It wasn't a thank you note. It was a formal appointment. Effective immediately, you have been named acting CEO of Reed Innovations, with full compensation and authority. For a moment, the words blurred. She thought it was a prank, some cruel joke. But attached to the letter was a photograph. Malcolm smiling beside a group of employees, his wheelchair gleaming under bright office lights. On the back, one handwritten line, "You saw me when others didn't. Now it's time the world sees you." Her knees went weak. The restaurant noise faded into silence. The man she'd comforted, the stranger who'd disappeared that night, hadn't just vanished. He'd been watching, deciding, transforming her small act of kindness into something life-altering. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. The news spread faster than Elena could comprehend. Waitress becomes CEO overnight. Headlines blazed across business blogs, social media, and local papers. Cameras waited outside her small apartment. Former co-workers called in disbelief. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. Why her? But deep down, Elena knew the answer. Malcolm had seen something in her that night, not ambition, not greed, but empathy. The kind that doesn't seek recognition, the kind that still matters in a world that so often forgets. When she entered Reed Innovations for the first time, the staff stood silent, curious. She walked through the sleek glass doors, clutching the same worn notebook she'd used to jot bakery ideas between table orders. On the wall hung a portrait of Malcolm, framed in silver. A plaque beneath it read, "Founder, Visionary, Believer in People." She stood there, tears welling, realizing this wasn't charity. It was legacy, his way of rewriting the narrative. A black man, once dismissed for his appearance and wheelchair, had chosen to lift someone who'd seen beyond his limitations. In his quiet way, he'd turned a moment of humiliation into a story of hope. Under Elena's leadership, the company expanded its mission, developing programs to help disabled and underprivileged workers find fair employment. Every decision she made, every policy she signed, carried his echo, "You deserve better." And somewhere, perhaps watching from afar, Malcolm could finally smile, knowing he'd changed not just one life, but countless others through that single evening. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary acts of justice don't come from protests or power. They come from empathy, the simple courage to see someone when the world refuses to. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more true, heartfelt stories that remind us what humanity still means.